in their own right. The CLP, we're fairly confident they've got two. Good evening once again. We interrupt our regular programming with the breaking news. Michael Gunner, the Labor leader, is about to speak. Let's bring in some live pictures right now. He's about to address the party faithful at Waratah Sports Club. There you can see he's just arriving to some rather joyous scenes as well. Plenty of hugs. At the moment, as we see it though, he probably doesn't quite have enough numbers to get him across the line as it is. Our State of the House has Labor at the moment with 12 seats. Of course, you need 13 to govern in your own right. The CLP, we're fairly confident they've got two. Independents, 2 seats. But those hugs certainly suggest that Michael Gunner may be ready to claim victory here tonight. There you have it on the bottom of the screen. The target, 13 seats. Maybe Michael Gunner knows something we don't. Certainly he's very happy. He has reason to be happy too, because 12 seats is a very strong position. 9 seats are still in doubt. That said, and I think Charles Crouch is with us as well. Charles, what are you making of this arrival? It certainly seems victorious.
That's the arrival of a winner, Jono. That's the arrival of someone that thinks they're going to get to 13 seats and perhaps even 14 or 15 and maybe beyond, maybe build on that number they had. That's certainly celebrations for Michael Gunner. And given where he was before it all turned upside down with COVID, you can see why he is so happy. Given what he's been through in the last 4 years, you can see why he's so happy. And given that we only have the CLP on 2 seats, you can also see why he'd be so happy as he arrives there at the Waratahs Club.
What are you expecting to hear from Michael Gunner tonight?
Well, it's going to be interesting. Is this a victory speech? Is it him getting up there and saying, I believe we will have the numbers to claim? As you said, we have Labor on 12 down the bottom. They need 13. We have them currently leading in 2 other seats, and we have 4 genuine toss-ups. So things would have to break really, really badly for Labor to not be in a position where they win. I know Bill Shorten has tweeted in the last sort of 20 minutes or so that he is congratulating Labor for a win in the territory. So the senior members of the party federally at least think this is a Labor win. And so Michael Gunner now has to lay out his plan for the next 4 years. He's spoken so much about COVID throughout this campaign. The message now must be, well, we've thrown the kitchen sink at COVID. He says they've saved lives. He says they've saved jobs. Let's turn that kitchen sink into economic performance, and let's start it not just being about getting through COVID, but recovering and rebuilding from it. And that may see Michael Gunner's fortunes as Chief Minister rebuild as well.
You mentioned COVID there, and I think Michael Gunner's done a very good job in that he's managed to take away from some of the problems that the NT is facing. We all know the economy hasn't been great up there for many years. We also know that crime and law and order, it remains a problem. He's managed to get voters' minds off those issues, hasn't he, over the past few weeks?
Particularly law and order, Jono, you're right. This was a campaign about COVID, and what he did so cleverly was linked COVID to the economy. Now, there was lots of very generous spending measures that I know small businesses enjoyed, and there was lots of very generous spending measures just for people and for residents of Darwin and residents of the northern suburbs. But you're particularly right about law and order. This became more about COVID, more about the economy and linking that to COVID, so therefore making it a strength. And Michael Gunner's been so very disciplined throughout this campaign in keeping on message, keeping on about COVID, and doing enough that he is now celebrating like a man who'll be Chief Minister for the next 4 years, all going to plan for him.
And he'll be very happy himself. Personally, of course, he came up against a very tough opponent in Tracy Hayes in his own electorate of Fanny Bay. As we mentioned earlier in our coverage, Tracy having quite a high profile as the former Chief Executive Officer of the NT Cattlemen's Association. I think if Tracy were to go against someone else, she might have won in another seat, but she took on Michael Gunner, came off second best. But look, enough of that, Charles, because it looks like we're going to hear from him. Will he be claiming victory? This is the big thing that we're going to find out now from our Labor leader, Michael Gunner.
Friends, fellow Territorians, it's been a long night. A long night. A lot of votes counted. A lot of votes left still to count. We can turn the volume up. Some of the two candidate preferred counts actually have the wrong candidates in them, which means we will need a few recounts. So there is still a bit more that we do not know. But this is what we know. Labor is in front on the votes. Labor is in front on the seats. And tonight I can tell you, I am very confident that Labor will form the next government of the Northern Territory. There is a long way to go in some tight seats, which means we are not done winning seats yet. Friends, we remain in the hunt. In Arnhem, in Barkly, in Blaine, in Breitling, in Brennan, in Daly, in Katherine, in Namatjira. So I am very hopeful that in the coming days we will be welcoming more Labor members into our team. We are the safest place in Australia, the best place in Australia. Tonight we gather on Larrakia land. I acknowledge the Larrakia people. I acknowledge the traditional owners of all our lands and seas, and I recommit our government to doing more and doing better for all our First Nations people. This has been a hard fight in a tough year. 2020. Bloody hell. It's not over yet. But for me, for our team, the most important battle of 2020 is not a contest between political parties. It is a bigger fight, a fight that affects all of us, that requires all our effort to keep protecting Territorians through this crisis, the fight to keep our communities safe, to keep our small businesses open, to keep our people in work, the fight to save lives and save jobs. If we are fortunate to keep serving, we will work for you, for all Territorians. We won't just save jobs, we will create them. We will keep rebuilding, building renewables to power our economy, infrastructure to strengthen the bush, and better housing for those who need it. We will keep investing in schools. We will keep investing in schools and hospitals and the services that you count on. We will keep tackling the hard generational challenges that were shoved aside for far too long. We will keep faith with the people of this special place where we are all lucky to call home. Our government is not perfect. We have made mistakes. We have learned lessons. But I believe, I know, that by working together, by sticking together, we can transform this once-in-a-century crisis into a once-in-a-century opportunity for the Northern Territory. We can make the Territory. We can make the Territory Australia's comeback capital. That is our opportunity. Friends, if you'll indulge me a few brief thank yous. I should start with the Territory's Health Service for saving my life 7 months ago. My wife told me that if I mentioned her tonight, she would finish the job. But I will take that risk. Building a life and a family with Christy is the best thing I will ever do. To the fine people of Fanny Bay, I thank you for honouring me for 4 more years in your service. To my deputy, Nicole Manison, the best wing woman I could have ever asked for. You are a champion human being. To all my cabinet and parliamentary colleagues, thank you for your hard work. Thank you for toughing it out. We still have members and candidates in close fights. We are thinking of you all tonight. To Labor's Community Action Network. Our Red Army, you legends. This year alone, 65,000 direct conversations about the things that really matter. Thank you. My final words of thanks tonight go beyond politics. Tonight, let's thank and honour the people who had barely time to vote this election, who barely had time to give it a thought, as all their time has been spent serving others. The police on our borders and in our communities keeping us safe. Our healthcare heroes in our hospitals, clinics and remote communities. Our educators who kept Territory kids learning. Our public service, one and all, who go above and beyond again and again. Thank you. I reckon bagging public servants is the cheapest shot you can take in politics, and you shouldn't do it. I have seen the work you have done, especially this year, and I will always respect you. The small business owners who shut down to save lives and who have since kept the Territory open and people working, thank you. We will not forget you. Thank you. Our retail and supermarket workers who never stopped. Know this, your Chief Minister is a former shelf stacker and very proud. To all these Territorians and many, many more, thank you. You are the front line. You are the secret to the Territory's success. We are one of the safest places in the world because we are home to some of the best people in the world. Friends, let's celebrate tonight, a beer or two. Then tomorrow it is back to work for the people of the Territory and for the next 4 years. Our job, our focus, our promise remains. We will always put Territorians first. Thank you.
Well, there you have it, Michael Gunner, as he mentioned, from a former supermarket shelf stacker to Labor leader, the Chief Minister for the last few years, and it wasn't quite a victory speech, but gee, it's not far off it, was it? As he mentioned, and I'll quote him, "I am very confident Labor will form the next government of the Northern Territory." Charles Croucher, I'll bring you in. What did you make of that from Michael Gunner?
I'm told Michael Gunner had about 8 different versions of that speech prepared,
Okay,
Jono.
sure.
They picked the right one. That was an excellent speech from Michael Gunner. He admitted failure, he admitted mistakes, and then he said that line, "A hard fight and a tough year, 2020 bloody hell," with the colloquialisms that has really been a feature of his campaign style. He put himself front and centre of this campaign. He put COVID front and centre. Tonight, he pivoted in a way from COVID to restarting the economy, restarting the territory. He said he wanted to make it the comeback capital. And he said he'd do it by working together, by sticking together, and make this once-in-a-century crisis a once-in-a-century opportunity. It was an opportunistic tone that was set for a night that could have had so many bad results or so much sort of disappointment for Labor. They've come out with the result, perhaps not the exact result they wanted, but they will form the government, and it's going to be up to them to form the next 4 years of the Territory.
What's an NT election without some kind of controversy? He did hint that there might be a couple of issues with preferences, so we might not know the exact result for days still to come. He did reference, as you mentioned there, COVID-19 quite a couple of times. He said that the biggest fight was not against politicians, but in fact the ongoing fight against COVID-19. Thanks to the police, the border workers, healthcare workers, etc. It really has played a big role in this election campaign, hasn't it?
It's been the issue, and let's not be surprised if that's a message and a result that flows through to other jurisdictions now. We know Queensland's not too far from an election. You can bet Anastasia Palaszczuk's looking at the results there tonight, seeing Labor in a tight fight retain a victory on the basis of COVID-19 success, and that's the exact same model she's going to work. You can think that there are leaders right around the country that look at this and say you can put COVID first and you can run a whole campaign based on keeping COVID safe and you can win. And what's more, given where, and Labor insiders, Labor members of Parliament and people across the federal level admit that Michael Gunner was in real trouble 6 months ago when there was that by-election 12 months ago that he almost lost the leadership. Since then, he spoke about 2020 being a year, and we spoke about it earlier tonight. There's been, he's got married, he's had a baby, he's had a heart attack, and now he's had this pandemic and then won an election. It's been a big couple of years for Michael Gunner.
It has indeed. Well, I know that everyone watching at home will be very interested to see how their electorate has performed and who will be representing them for the next 4 years. So look, I think before we go, we really need to run through all 25 seats and just see how the state of the play is. So let's have the call of the board, Charles, and we'll run through them one by one. We'll go alphabetically. We start in Arafura, and Lawrence Costa is ahead on primaries there with 44% of the vote counted.
Yeah, we had that as an ALP retain. That's one of the 12 in the ALP column. This is a remote electorate, one with usually quite a low voter turnout. That's about as many votes as we expect. The lead is big. It's a good win for Lawrence Costa.
Let's move on to Aralua. Now, the primary numbers here might be somewhat confusing because it has Damien Ryan well ahead. However, once preferences flow through this system, Robin Lambley comes right into calculations again.
Yeah, far too close to call. This is one that will be counting for some days because of how broad that voter base is. The Greens getting 10%, ALP, almost 1 in 5 people have voted for them, and then the two main candidates. It's one the CLP will be confident they can win. Right now, on two-party votes, Robin Lambley is ahead by 13 votes. Jono.
13, there you go. Let's take a look at Arnhem, and this one's probably too close to call.
Yeah, it's one we have in the too close to call category, I believe, although one that we may have put over to Labor because the votes and the preferences are flowing to Selena Ubo there, and she's had enjoyed really good preference flow. In fact, I think we have put that in the Labor column. Okay. That's a big hold for them.
OK, let's move on to the seat of Barkly. Now, this, of course, left vacant with Jerry McCarthy.
Yeah, this one is breaking for Labor and breaking late for Labor. You can see Steve Edgington is ahead there. This is one that will likely end up in the Labor column because of the way preferences are going to Sid Vashtis. Another crucial hold.
We know one thing about Blaine. We probably don't know who's going to win it, but we did know that Terry Mills lost it.
Yeah, and when Michael Gunner spoke about there being some electorates where the Electoral Commission had picked the wrong two candidates to flow through with two-party preferred, that's this seat. This one is a toss-up. It is close. The Electoral Commission assumed, as I think most of us did, Terry Mills would be one of the top two. He clearly isn't.
Joshua Burgoyne is quite a decent leader in primaries down in Breitling and Alice Springs, but again, once preferences start flowing through, who knows? Really
close. This is one of those ones where the Territory Alliance preference to Labor, so that may help Dale Wakefield in the end.
OK, let's take a look at the seat of Brennan Charles. Tony Sievers is the sitting member. A real challenge here, though, for Labor to hang on to this one.
Yeah, this is a genuine toss-up, one of the flat-out toss-ups. This could go either way. We'll be waiting on this one. Again, the results will come in the mail whenever the mail comes in.
One of the ones that we call very early is the seat of Casuarina. Congratulations to Lauren Moss.
Great retain for ALP, one they would have hoped to and would have needed to, and that's a really good sign of when the ALP can win the northern suburbs, they genuinely win the election.
The seat of Daly. Now, this is going to be another one that, look, this could last for days.
This will last for days. On the last two-party preferred count, which has only just come in, Labor is ahead by 6 votes.
Can you believe it? 1,617 to 1,611 for Ian Sloan. So, yes, we're going to hear a lot more about the seat of Daly over coming days. Let's move on to Drysdale, Charles, and this will be a good win for Eva Lawler.
Yeah, really good win for Eva Lawler. It's one that I guess the CLP would have had in their column, one they would have needed to win if they were to on that path to government. That's a great result for Eva Lawler, the first ALP member to retain a seat in Palmerston.
We need not mention Michael Gunner. We know he's back for another 4 years. I made mention of Tracy Hayes before. Were you surprised that she decided to run in this seat and not find an easier target?
Oh, given the circumstances at the time, this was a pre-COVID decision, and certainly, you know, it's a credit to Leah Finocchiaro and the CLP team. They were able to get her on board, and they would have really hoped this was a chance to disrupt Michael Gunner, to have him focusing on his own patch and not getting out and focusing on the territory, which can sometimes really rattle a leader, as it did Adam Giles. Remember, John Howard back in 2007 had to spend all that time in his seat of Bennelong federally. So a great result for Michael Gunner. And you know, what's next for Tracy Hayes? There, no doubt, there is a future for her in politics. We'll just wait to see what it is.
Fong Lim was held by Jeff Collins for Labor, this time running a Territory Alliance. He's running a distant third at the moment.
Yeah, there's a strange hold-up in the votes here. We haven't really seen many votes since about 7 o'clock Darwin time. I noticed in Michael Gunner's speech, he seemed to imply they think they will win this speech. So that would be in our tally, they will win this seat. That would be in our tally seat number 13 and therefore give them majority government. We don't have that in Labor's column. It seems that Labor do.
The other big win there is for any customer of Luxor House on the Stewart Highway at Stewart Park, as Amy. Her nasi goreng was fantastic, so I'm glad that everyone will still be able to enjoy that.
Let's miss it regularly.
Let's move on to Goyder. The preference flow here is really going to help Kezia Purik.
Yeah, Kezia Purik has held this since 2008. It's the first time she will win. There is quite a significant swing against her, but she is one of the 2 independents that will retain their place in the parliament.
We've mentioned a couple of times through our coverage tonight the decision from Chancey Paik to contest the seat of Gwodja. Right call.
Yeah, very right call. 64%. It'd be one of the biggest margins that the ALP have. He will form part of the cabinet, you'd imagine, or may retain his place as the Speaker if they can get to enough seats that they can afford to have a Labor Speaker. Chancey Paik will sit in that chair again.
It's been a very good night for Joel Bowden. Not only has he won the seat of Johnson, but his beloved Tigers beat Essendon in Dreamtime in Darwin tonight, Charles. So there you go. It's a double win for him.
The only problem is he wasn't there to celebrate with the Tigers.
OK, on to Carava, Nari Arquette.
Yeah, great win for Nari Arquette. She walked in, I understand, to the party with a photo of Jack Arquette, her dad. That was part of the celebration. Yeah, again, you win the northern suburbs, you win the election, particularly if you're Labor. She is one of the 3 or 4 sort of people they must pay credit to because they're the seats that have decided this election. Again, you go back, it's one of the old school elections. Win the suburbs, that's what they've done.
The seat of Catherine, now this one is extraordinary because this will be a race to second one because Kate Ganley, 1,116 votes, Joe Hersey, the Country Liberals, 1,094, these are primaries, and Melanie Usher, Territory Alliance, 1,020, less than 100 votes, primaries separating that. So this is huge.
You throw a blanket over them, they're coming up the straight at Fanny Bay. This is a special. It's neck and neck and neck, and really we're going to be days before we find out this one. A real chance for the Territory Alliance to get one of their 2 potential seats at the moment, and that would give them some say in the Parliament. Looking to be a great hold for Labor if they can, and then Joe Hersey is someone that the CLP are really fond of. So there are 3 quite outstanding candidates here that will all be having their side cheer for them because they know what a big win Catherine would be. And it's so amazing to see Catherine, the old CLP bastion, be this seat this time around.
You mentioned the finish there at Fanny Bay. Well, this is a 2-horse race, the former seat of Nhulunbuy. I think Lynn Walker might have been confident she might have taken this back, but at the moment, using your racing analogy, I think Yingimark Goyler's kicked ahead. Yeah,
you get in the collect queue. If you've got some money on him, it's over. Yingimark Goyler, this is one of those remote seats where the total turnout is usually quite low. Yingimark Goyler has drastically increased his margin. It was only 8. It is now 400 or so. He will retain his role as the only Indigenous independent in the Territory Parliament. I know he's been big on working with the federal government to try and get some kind of treaty with Indigenous peoples. That's something he'll push for the next 4 years.
And that will be a disappointing result, I know, for Lynn Walker there in Nhulunbuy. OK, let's move on to Namatjira down in Central Australia. And look, this is going to be another extremely tight race. There are 6 candidates here for preferences.
Yeah, Bill Yan leads there by 5 votes when it comes to primaries. I understand that lead drastically blows out to 30 votes on the 2-party for Perth basis. So that's one we would look to see. Again, one of those ones where the Territory Alliance, do people follow the how to vote cards? There's a couple of independents that are having a say there as well. This is one of the probably 4 genuine toss-ups that we still have and may still have come Wednesday or Thursday next week.
Yeah, it's actually Sherry Lee Taylor just ahead by those 30 votes on the 2 candidate preferred vote at the moment, so it kind of flips around. Let's move on to Nelson.
Breaking for Labor, that's a good sign for them.
Let's move on to Nelson, and this is a very, very good result for Gerard Maley. He put in a lot of work after the last election. He pretty much started straight away. He campaigned hard and he's won.
Yeah, it was an 8-year or a 6-year process for Gerard Maley, wasn't it? It's difficult to beat Jerry Wood in Nelson. He has finally got the chance when Jerry Wood's not there and he's taken it. That's a great pickup for the CLP. It's one of just 2 seats we have safely in their column. He may well be the Deputy Leader of the Opposition come this time next week.
I was told Natasha Files before our coverage was an absolute certainty to win, and that mail was correct.
A moral, and the interesting part about this seat is that she may be winning this 2-party over the Greens. They may poll second over the CLP, so Nightcliff has become really hers for the foreseeable future. You know, got a young member of Parliament. We know she has the young family that were young 8 years ago when she just first joined the party. She'll have a big role to play in Michael Gunner's cabinet moving forward.
Port Darwin, Charles, are we giving it to Paul Kirby?
Yeah, we have this as a probable retain, and the numbers are falling Labor's way with both the Territory Alliance and that quite significant Green vote you can see on the screen. They would break for Labor, and the votes are breaking for Labor there. It would only would be on what happens with postal votes, particularly from the military, but Labor has 53% on the 2-party preferred. Again, if we can put Port Darwin in the category of Labor, that would be seat number 13. That would let Michael Gunner govern in his own right. There's a few of those seats, and the more the merrier when you're a Labor span.
We've mentioned a couple of times tonight there were 3 seats at this NT election that Territory Alliance decided to preference Labor rather than the CLP. This is one of them. So Gary Strawn there sitting at 13%. A lot of them are going to go to Paul Kirby, so you'd think he's in a strong position. You'd rather be him than Toby George.
Yeah, you're ahead on primaries, and then there's 20%, so 1 in 5 votes that are people that are preferencing you. So even if only half do that, that's you.
Kate Warden, sensational in Sanderson. She's done very, very well.
Great win, has extended that margin and made that seat her own from where it was a few years ago. We've said it a few times. We used to say it a lot. You win the northern suburbs, you win the election. She's one of the half dozen seats that have won it.
Leah Finocchiaro was, I think, she spoke really, really well in her speech earlier tonight. She's a likeable character, isn't she? And she's done very well there to defeat Tristan Sloan, who himself has got a very strong following through his fishing and everything else. So that's a good win for Leah.
Yeah, it's a really good win for Leah, and it's been a good campaign for Leah, I'd have to say. You know, she was taking on Terry Mills as well as Michael Gunner. Now, the votes that the country Liberals have actually lost votes in the primaries at last check from where they were last time. They will probably gain seats, and that gives them the parliamentary face and the ability to form a more cohesive, more unified and more productive opposition. She's only been the opposition leader for a short amount of time. The party will benefit from stability in that role, and she will grow further in that role.
And to cap us off, Charles, speak us through Wangari.
It was probably the first seat we called, Nicole Mannison. It was one that Michael Gunner pointed to her as the ultimate wingwoman when it comes to the parliament. She is the treasurer. She'll have a huge role to play, because when this shifts from being a health focus to an economic focus, that's when the rubber will meet the road for Labor. And that's when they can start looking at what the next 4 years will look like and what their prospects will look like in 4 years' time.
You've seen a lot of elections, Charles Croucher. I know you're a self-confessed political nerd. What are your thoughts overall of the evening?
Well, a great win for Michael Gunner. And it will depend on how the cards fall, but there were so many variables heading into tonight. Labor were pretty confident that they wouldn't end up in total opposition, but they weren't confident they'd end up on 13. As we said, we've got them at 12, and we've got 2 probable Labor seats. They're Labor leads, not enough to call, 4 genuine toss-ups. So there's a chance they build on the current parliamentary body that they have now, and that would be an extraordinary result for Michael Gunner. It cements him as the leader if they get that spot. It gives the territory the stability that, after the volatile years that they've had over the last 8 years, the territory probably needs, and it gives him a mandate to move forward. The big challenge is, how does the territory move forward, and how does that long road out of COVID wind? Because that could be the difficult part. The territory's done an incredible job when it comes to keeping everyone protected. The big cost of that, though, is freedoms and, of course, the economy. Now the rebuilding starts for them. But that's a great night for Michael Gunner and his team. A disciplined campaign, a campaign entirely around COVID, and a campaign I think we'll see replicated in other bigger, even federal jurisdictions in the months and years to come, Jono.
Charles Croucher, you are an absolute genius, as always. Thank you so much for your assistance tonight, my friend. Always enjoy it. You make my job so easy, Charles. Thank you.
Let's do it all again in 4 years' time.
We'll see. Good idea, my friend. Charles Croucher, thank you very much. And to everyone who's been working behind the scenes as well from the 9 Newsroom, thank you very much. Of course, you can keep up to date on the 9 News Now on Facebook page. We will have regular updates there. Today's show tomorrow morning. And, of course, you can always go to 9news.com.au on what is a very significant night. As you can see, Michael Gunner, wife Christy, very, very happy. We're almost certain that in the next couple of days, we will have it officially that Michael Gunner will lead the Labor Party for the next 4 years in the Northern Territory. Thank you so much for your company. From all of us here, have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.